You all know the Seltos, right? It's the SUV that came along in 2019 and launched brand Kia in India. And it came in with such a bang that it lit a fire under the mid-size SUV segment. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the mid-size SUV segment was doing just fine back then, but it did start to stagnate around that time. But then this thing comes along and just nudges the whole segment forward. It was more premium, it was more luxurious, it had more space, it had better dynamics, it had new cool engines, and of course it had loads of features. Of course 2019 was a long time ago now and things have moved far forward. The competition has caught up, new competition has entered. Of course, Kia was prepared for that. So this is the facelifted Kia Seltos that plans to do it all over again. But they promise us that there's more to it than meets the eye. So today I'm going to tell you everything that's new and then I'm going to take it for a drive. So stick around. The changes at the front might seem subtle at first, but if you really look into it, there are quite a few of them. For one, the grille, it's gotten a whole lot larger, including the frames, more like a tiger mouth instead of a tiger nose this time around. Then there is the DRL pattern, which is a little bit different, and the DRLs now still extend onto the grille, but they're just a little bit lower than before. Then down here, the old ice cube fog lamps, well, there are 4 elements instead of 3. There are these nice body-colored inserts in the new bumper, which I quite like. And over there you'll see, yep, that's the radar element for the ADAS system. Also, this is a GT line, and you remember they used to have some red accents which are no longer there, which I quite like. The other thing I really like is this new pewter olive paint shade. Do you like it? Let us know down in the comments. And while you're there, tell us which is your favorite mid-size SUV. Do you think the Seltos can take the top spot back from the Creta? And as always, hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. And be sure to stay subscribed to Autocar India. Around the sides, not much has changed at all. You will notice this nice little trim piece on the bottom of the doors and the fact that the 18-inch alloy wheels are now also available on this GT line, not restricted only to the X line. But really, the big changes are around the back over here, where the taillights have now moved to this more vertical format that matches the international Kia models, and they're connected by an illuminated LED strip with the Kia logo there instead of the chrome strip that was there before. Further down, you'll find these new accents in the bumpers on this GT line trim. The reverse lights have moved down here, the reflectors are here, there's a 4 diffuser, and check this out, chrome exhaust tips that are actually connected to the exhaust pipes. Another small change that I think is worth mentioning is the new key fob that looks and feels a lot more premium. And with that, let's go for a drive. And on the inside, there's a big change waiting. So welcome to the road and the inside of the Kia Seltos Facelift, and I gotta say I am immediately pleasantly surprised by this interior. I'll get into some of the details later, but the first thing you notice, and if you remember the old Kia Seltos, is that they've tidied things up so much in here, and I absolutely love it. Now this interior was never short on wow factor or on quality, and those things have absolutely remained. But what they've done is put a new HVAC and media control panel down here, which is just a lot tidier, and I'm very happy to report full of physical buttons and controls. They haven't succumbed to the touch control mania that's sweeping the market right now. And dual zone climate control, which is new for the segment. But what that's also done is clean up this upper area where there once was this huge double console that sat quite high up on the dashboard, and if I'm honest, obstructed your view a little bit, especially if you were a shorter person. This very, very neat, slim dual panel system with a 10.25 inch screen there, another one over here. It's a full digital screen this time, no partial anything. And frankly, it works really well, not just to improve your view forward, but also just to look a little bit cleaner and more minimalist. And I think that was necessary for this car. Now the shift to a full digital display has also opened up a whole lot of possibilities for what this car can show you. For instance, the whole look changes of the dials depending on which mode you're in. And of course there is ADAS, so all the ADAS features are shown to you quite clearly in the center of that instrument cluster in full color glory. Now, there are a number of interior options based on the trim and the variant that you choose. And so I should explain at the outset that I am in a GT line with the 1.5 turbo petrol and the DCT, and that will inform a lot of different things about this car. The first of those implications is that now you get an all black interior with the GT line. I'm not such a big fan of that. I like a little bit of color in my interiors, but there are white accents like here on the doors and a bit on the seats as well. And now onto the driving experience itself, and this 1.5 TGDI turbo petrol direct injection engine is the engine of the moment, isn't it? All the other powertrains are the same as they were before, but this one, like it has been on the Karens and a few Hyundais, is new. 160 horsepower, 253 Newton meters, those are class leading numbers. It's not just the powertrain either. We're moving at a pretty considerable clip out here on the highway, and road noise is very well contained. There is a little bit of wind noise, but I think it's an acceptable amount. In fact, the loudest and most annoying thing you'll hear in the car are all the beeps and warnings from the ADAS system, which I've forgotten to turn off. So forgive me if you hear a couple of beeps along the way. Now, refinement extends beyond just the noise that a car makes or rather doesn't make, and that's also smoothness that has to be taken into consideration. Now, out here on the highway, of course, is not the best place to judge. It's coasting along quite smoothly, but earlier while we were driving in the city, I did notice some hesitation and jerkiness from the DCT transmission when it came to shifting up and down in traffic. In fact, I'd go as far as saying it's perhaps not even the smoothest execution of this particular powertrain we've tested. Now, an unfortunate byproduct of this gearbox's responsiveness is that when it detects that you're driving aggressively, it responds in kind by keeping the engine at really high revs. That's great for acceleration, but unfortunately that's when the refinement stops. And you hear this engine's dark side, which is quite grumbly and throaty. Make no mistake, it's not a deal breaker by any means, but I would say that a torque converter or perhaps even a CVT might just be a little bit smoother. Any shortcomings it might have had on the smoothness front, it more than makes up for with speed of shifts. That's right, this is the DCT and they're known for their quick shifts. This one is very good at that. Of course, in eco and normal modes, there is a little bit of hesitation built into it, but if you want to drive sportily, you put it in sport mode, and then the responses and the shifts are really, really quick. Oddly enough, it feels just a little bit smoother as well in sport mode. There isn't as much of a head nod or jerk as you go through the gears in sport mode as there is in eco or normal. Interesting. As for the engine itself, as we've experienced in other cars, it certainly has the performance. And I'm sure that if we strapped our Autocar testing gear to this car, we'd get some pretty impressive numbers. Kia says it'll do 0 to 100 in less than 9 seconds. And I do think that is possible. The thing is, it's not one of those ultra responsive, always on edge engines like, say, Volkswagen Group's 1.5 TSI. No, it does make its power, but it does make it in a slightly more linear manner, and that's just fine. Not every engine has to be racy, but like I said, you always know that there's a strong reserve of performance available. Now, interestingly, and not common for a facelift, Kia has also worked on the suspension of this car. They said they've stiffened it up at the front and softened it up at the rear so as to improve steering responses but also improve comfort. So, has it worked? Well, on the ride quality front, I can certainly say it's made a difference. The last time I drove a Seltos GT, it was riding on 17-inch wheels, and this one's riding on 18-inch wheels, and yet it is a little bit less harsh this time around. To be able to go up a wheel size and still have improved ride quality, now that is an achievement. As for the handling, probably not the best place to tell you out here on the highway, but I can say that there is a confidence, a directness to the steering that I suppose could be attributed to that slightly stiffer front end. Now, when this car came along in 2019, it did shake things up on the features front, when it came to this segment, and yeah, it introduced quite a few segment first features. Since then, of course, the others have caught up and even surpassed it in a few ways, and therefore this facelift has come back to take back that crown, and it has. Now, unfortunately, the Kia Seltos variant breakup is one of life's great unfathomable, and I could not possibly explain all of it to you right now. But for that, go to autocarindia.com and check that out in detail. I'll put a link in the description below. For now though, here's what you get on the top spec Kia Seltos that I'm driving right now. Now, of course, this car has ADAS features. We've got to talk about that. We're on a nice highway, so it's probably a good time to do that. It has 3 radars, 1 in the front, 2 in the back, and a host of cameras that all work in conjunction to help sense things all around the car. And that's good because while some cars make do with only a camera-based system, you can't offer all the features of a fully fledged ADAS system with just that.
Now yes, the fancy new turbo petrol may be the talk of the town, but let's not forget that the Seltos is one of only 2 SUVs in the segment to still have a diesel engine. So I think that's worth a closer look.
Now there's been no powertrain change to the Kia Seltos diesel. It still uses a 1.5 litre engine with a variable geometry turbo, making 115 horsepower and 250 Newton meters of torque. You can still get it with an IMT gearbox or this torque converter automatic. What has happened though is that it's been through upgrades for the BS6 Phase 2 emissions norms. So is there anything different compared to the old car? The short answer is, if they are too subtle for me to notice without a back-to-back drive of the older car. And the good news is that all those lovely characteristics of this engine that we loved from before have returned. It was always one of the smoothest and most refined diesel engines around, and it continues to be so. And it truly feels like it has the perfect companion in this torque converter automatic. It's impressively silent at low revs, and even if you push it harder, it doesn't sound strained or really clattery. The torque converter shifts are smooth, certainly smoother than even the DCT we drove earlier in the petrol version. Perhaps it's not quite as responsive or eager to shift down as that DCT, but then this is not the powertrain you're buying for performance. It too comes with drive modes, but here the differences are slightly more subtle from one mode to the other. And once again, that's okay for similar reasons. This is a car you just want to cruise in over long distances. And out here on the highway, it's just perfect. If you want to make a quick overtake, you just put your foot down, a slight hesitation as it downshifts, a bit of build of revs, but you're off in the mid-range and on your way in no time at all. This is still not the one we'd recommend to driving enthusiasts. That remains the turbo petrol, but if all you want is to take long distance drives, road trips and such, this is probably the one for you. Kia knows there's still a market for diesel, especially in this mid-size SUV segment, and that's why they've made the upgrade to BS6 Phase 2 with this engine and kept it around. But if you were in the market for a Seltos, which one would you pick? The diesel, the naturally aspirated petrol, or the turbo petrol? And which of the many gearboxes would you choose? Let us know down in the comment section.
And speaking of the powertrains, we didn't get a chance to drive the IMT gearboxes with both these engines, nor the base 1.5 litre naturally aspirated petrol. But we'll try and bring you reviews of those very soon. Other than that, what you need to know is the price. At 10.89 lakh rupees, the starting price is virtually the same as before, which is really impressive. At the top end, however, things are a bit more expensive, with these GT line turbo petrol and diesel automatics costing 19.79 lakh rupees each, with another 20,000 more to move up to the X line versions. That's a bit more than rivals too, but then they've added quite a bit more to the package. The new features, panoramic sunroof, dual zone AC, dual digital screens, ADAS, they put it on par with, if not ahead of rivals. But really, it's the mechanical changes, the new turbo petrol engine and revised suspension that make it feel worth the premium. Kia hasn't tried to reinvent the wheel here, this is just a facelift after all. But all the little changes add up to an SUV that sets the segment standard a little bit higher. And isn't that just what the Seltos has always done? Thank you for watching.